Hey everyone, this is Pete with Power Up Coaching and Hypnosis, and thank you again for coming back to the second video. It is our mission to make addiction history, and it's really unfortunate when anybody feels they need to be controlled by an addiction, whether it's cigarettes or basically anything that's stealing their health, stealing their money, because whether they're spending just $100 a week, which is $5,200 a year, or even a couple that I've seen spending something like $200 each week, which is 10 grand a year, or even that come up to 40 grand, which is like a house deposit, like every leap year. And then also just thinking about the health issues, the emphysema, the cancer, the heart disease, that it's really not good for people to be such a slave to addiction when they really don't have to be. And now that I've seen over 1,000 smokers, I've seen people in my office going through my program, and I get them from one side to the other. And no matter who they are, whether they're old or young, whether they've been smoking for 50 years, or if they're just a bit of a social smoker, that either way, everybody can quit smoking. But these are the top 10 myths, and these myths, believe it or not, keep people smoking because it's just sharing the same narrative, and this social narrative goes just going back and forth. Just like if somebody keeps telling you that quitting smoking is hard, it gives, in this weird way, people permission to not have to quit. So when we think about it, it's just proven that, let's say chocolate and caffeine is equally addicting. But around Christmas and Easter, people get addicted and unaddicted to sugar and chocolate and caffeine all the time, and they don't make a big deal about it. But when it comes to cigarettes, people keep giving each other permission to stay smokers. So the first myth that I hear people say is smoking is just a habit. And let me explain that, what I hear when people say it's just a habit, because it sounds like, yeah, that makes sense. But what they're really saying is that there's something they're semi-unclear about. Are they in control of it, or are they not in control of it? Do you have a plan to get rid of it at some point? So when they say it's just a habit, that kind of just ignores how much they're actually using smoking as a reason for stress relief device. As an example, let's say that the next time they feel annoyed by traffic or a family member or the pressures of life, and they just need a minute, they just need a break, they're kind of ignoring that fact, that that's why they're using a cigarette as a calming device, or to take a break device, or to give themselves a break device. Those breaks have always come from that cigarette. So for them, it's more of a communication device to say, no, I can't help you right now, but I can help you after this cigarette. So it's so much a go-to when people actually want to feel calm. And it makes me wonder what would happen if they had another way to produce the calmness in their life. Another reason is that they use it as a reward. Maybe at the end of the day, what are you going to do the next time you want to feel good about yourself? After you've given to work, after you've given to family, after you've given to all of your responsibilities, and now the kids are in bed, now the cats are asleep, everything's cleaned, even your last pair of socks, and now you got this little bit of me time. I've been so busy, and now I want a treat, I want a reward. So they pick up the cigarette and they go to the thing that is going just to end the day. It helps me get to know myself again, and to think about what this has all been about. It's like they're kind of like their identity drug at the end of the day. They have to have that treat or reward and go, yeah, there it is. There's my treat. There's my reward. But what other rewards have they set up? So that it's not just a habit, it's actually that these are real emotional needs that they have to feel calm. You need to have treats, right? You need to have a way to jumpstart yourself at the start of the day. You need to have ways of connecting with people, like icebreakers, without having to, again, rely on cigarettes. Now, the second myth that I hear a lot from people is that the damage is already done, so there's no point to quitting. But if you look at the science, it just shows none of that is true. There's always a benefit to quit. And as we look at, what they call a risk, the risk of heart disease or the risk of a heart attack, it's based on a percentage. And the more time that passes without a cigarette, the lower your chance gets, which means the better your percentage gets for you to then not have a heart attack. As the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second time to plant a tree is right now. So this whole mindset of people, they're kind of just disposing of themselves, that the damage is already done. I've done it for 50 years. What's the difference? What difference will it make? Well, it makes a huge difference. The third myth is that not everybody can quit, which is complete nonsense. Ask yourself what body part. Ask yourself what gene. What is it are they talking about that everybody else can quit? But what makes you so separate from the rest, that nearly 8 billion people on this planet, that anyone who smokes can quit, but this one person thinks they're so different from the rest of the human race, that their human neurology is so different that they can't quit? What exactly is it? What is it that the cigarette is providing them with? What is it that has them say, when we think of painkillers, right? We say a painkiller takes about 20 minutes to kick in, and that makes the headache go away. And, but cigarettes don't kick in within 20 minutes. They're not doing anything for anybody. Alcohol can kick in, caffeine can kick in, even cocaine can kick in. But cigarettes, they don't do anything for people. So when someone says they can't quit smoking, what they mean is they haven't looked at their fundamental human needs. Am I using it as a method to give myself a 2-minute break from the boss? Is this week someone telling me that he just needed 2 minutes away from the boss, but the boss is getting so aggressive and he's like, screw you in your 2 minutes, and then the person went out and had a cigarette to try to calm down. It's kind of like when we have our internet browser open, right? If we have too many tabs open, it becomes really, really hard to see where we are and to think. So think of the cigarette. That's what it was for him, was to sort through what was going on in his mind. And honestly, the cigarette doesn't help in the process. The cigarette is an excuse to take a break to help process what's in the head, but it doesn't do the processing for him. Now, the fourth myth is that I'm too old to quit smoking. Too old to quit smoking? What does that actually even mean? Because again, after seeing 1,000 clients, these people aren't all 20 years old. But there's one thing that kind of makes everybody similar, is that everyone thinks that they're going to be the toughest clients ever. And it's incredible that, 1,000 people all saying that they're going to be the toughest client ever, like another one doesn't make you unique. It just sort of means that you're just another person telling me the same exact thing. Just like, if you worked at Walmart or Target or Kohl's or any really retailer, and you say things like, next please, next please, next please, and then the customer says back to you, every single one, how's your day? How's your day? How's your day? Or like, that person in the cafe that keeps getting hit on all day by 50 different guys that come in, it doesn't make any of those guys or even you stand out. It makes you kind of, the same as everyone else. So when people basically say that, you're too old, I'm too old, it's different for me because I've been smoking for 50 years. What difference does that make? Like, oh, by this age in my life, I can't change. But let me do a little test with you, a little exercise. Just suppose you're in your house. You're in your kitchen. You have your cups up here and your plates down here. And then now we just swap them. So your cups are down here and your plates are up here. Can you no longer ever use your kitchen ever again? You're probably like, yeah, of course I can use the kitchen. I just have to go to a different place to where the cups where they were to where they are now, to where the plates are where they are now. And it's great because it's kind of like that change. You know, you can change at any age. Your brain can change at any age. This whole being too old to quit is nonsense. And the fifth myth about smoking is that it cures stress. Everybody seems to know that smoking doesn't cure stress. If that was true, you better believe the pack of cigarettes would say right on the box, cure stress. It would be right there on the pack, but it's not true. The truth is that smoking increases the heart rate. It costs more money. It causes more issues. It's something that you have to continually have hanging around. It's something that they have to continually pay for. And we all know that smokers aren't always the most relaxed people in the world. Think about it. If smoking cured stress, then anybody who smoked should be the calmest person on the planet. What they're doing is using smoking as an excuse to take time out. If you think about when a person, they're smoking and they breathe in, they go, and then they hold it, their stomach inflates, the shoulders drop, and then you exhale, you go, and you've had this real physiological change, not from the chemical, but from the fact that you just did that breath. That ritual alone is all you're looking for, because the same is if you think about how do you feel 15 minutes after a cigarette, or how do you feel the next day after a cigarette. It hasn't cured stress. It's just something to distract you, an excuse for something to do, and almost anything else would work, whether it be a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a walk, water, a few deep breaths, or basically anything that's healthy. Now, the sixth myth that I hear a lot is that cutting down is going to help them. You may have even said it yourself. I got 20 cigarettes today to smoke. I'm going to cut down to 19 cigarettes a day. Then it's going to be 18 cigarettes a day. Then it's going to be 3, 2, 1, then none. But it doesn't work. Because from what I've heard from over 1,000 smokers, is always the same thing. Anybody who can justify one cigarette can justify another cigarette and justify another cigarette. Then they become full-time smokers. So if someone's gone years without cigarettes, they have one. And then what happens? They have another one. And then they become full-time smokers. If they have permission to smoke, then they have permission to smoke. Once that door opens to smoking, they become full-time smokers again. So you got to get all the cigarettes out at once. Now, myth number 7 is that vaping is good for you as an alternative. Not only is vaping quite toxic, but it's that you really haven't killed the habit or excuse. If you think about it, instead of going from smoking as a way to take a break to just taking a break in a healthy way by saying, hey, everybody, I'll be right back. I'm going to go have a cup of tea, and I'll be right back in a few moments. Another person will be like, hey, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go have a cup of tea, and I'll be right back. Instead of them going, where are you going? Oh, yeah, I'm going to go have a cigarette. Because it's true that people are a little bit more understanding that when you have a cigarette, they're like, oh, okay. If he's having a cigarette, you leave him alone because he needs a cigarette. But if you're saying to somebody, I'm going to have a cup of tea, yeah, there's slightly a different sort of social stigma that comes to that sort of taking a break, just for taking a break. Yeah. And people do actually give out a little bit more permission when you're smoking, because people just kind of leave you alone. It's the same as, when a woman talks about her health. The man doesn't argue because he's really, unless he's a doctor himself, he just doesn't want to embarrass himself. He's not an expert in that particular area. But this whole idea of vaping is that they just went from going off to have a cigarette to going off to still put chemicals in their body. And honestly, most people who vape tend to go back to smoking cigarettes at some point, because they haven't cured the impulse, the real reason why. So myth number 8 is that patches will help people quit. Now the issue with patches is that if you think about the 3 pillars we talked about smoking in the last video, is the nicotine addiction, the habit, and the emotional battle. So when you put your patches on your arm or you put nicotine into your body, not only are there 600 to 10,000 chemicals in a cigarette, depending on what brand you get, but the patch only gives you nicotine and not the other 600 to 10,000 chemicals. But again, if people are screaming at each other and somebody's wearing a patch and they still want to leave being screamed at and go do something like maybe have a cigarette, there's no break patch, there's no habit patch either. So if someone pulls out a cigarette every time the phone rings, there's no patch for that either. So remember that after 3 days of not having nicotine, the nicotine addiction is cured. By day 4, there is no need for patches, pills, gum sprays, or any other chemicals or things to help you, especially not patches after 4 days. What you need is to really get your basic human needs met. Now, myth number 9 is that you need willpower to quit. Some people call it won't power just to be funny, but the thing about this is that you bring energy, right? You're like, the energy, and you're scrunching up your face, and you have all these muscles getting stiff, and you're doing all these things, and that's not gonna cut it. The way that the subconscious works is that it cares about pictures, sounds, and feelings. It does not care about the energy. It doesn't care about the effort. It doesn't care about any of that. It's not an ingredient. It's not something that helps. Effort and willpower is not something that helps you. It doesn't help you release it. If I told you to squeeze this pen with all your strength and you're like, yeah, I can do that. I'm squeezing with all my strength and it's so tight now. And then if I say, could you let go of it with all of that same strength? You can't, because the strength is what's keeping it in my hand. It's only by releasing the strength that lets it go. So basically, instead of using words like not or stop or quit or free, especially if you got them followed by smoking. So like not smoking and don't smoke and quit smoke and free of smoking. If I said to you, don't think of the number 3, or put twice as much effort to not think of the number 3, the word not didn't help at all. Also think of when people ask you, now, how are you? And you respond with, not bad. Well, not bad is not how you are. Bad and not doesn't tell me anything about how you are. Are you good? Are you neutral? Do I have to guess? So instead of saying, that you want to quit smoking, tell me what you want to have, because you're not going to need willpower for that. You just need clarity. So if I ask you what it is that you do want, can you answer that question without using negations? So without using not and stop or quit or don't or free up. Now, I know that may sound impossible right now, but I promise you it's not. And the last myth number 10, is that people worry that they're going to lose friends when they quit smoking, which is completely rubbish. With the over 1,000 clients that I have seen, they've all told me that they haven't lost any friends, but it's still a fear. It's still an issue, especially, the number one fear most women have when it comes to giving up cigarettes is that they might put on weight. And it's not just that they quit smoking and they put on weight. It's that there's a potential that if they're not deliberate about how they want to swap their habits, they could go from solving one bad habit to creating another bad habit. Where, if you are deliberate, you could say, well, instead of smoking, I will run, I will read, I will watch Netflix, I will talk to a friend. You just need to be a little bit more deliberate and clear. Because remember, there are the 3 pillars, the 3 basic needs for you to quit smoking, to be done. The first one is you need to do it for yourself. Don't say my wife sent me or my husband sent me or my doctor sent me. Say I sent me. The other, advise me, the others support me. My doctor told me as a doctor what I needed to know, but I'm really here for me. I'm here for my health. Do it for your health. You can also do it for your children, and you can also do it for your grandchildren. But do it for yourself first. The second one is do it now, because it's so easy to postpone it. Just like when you say your diet starts on Monday, or your diet starts next week, or I'll write that book one day. Like, yeah, okay, you're never going to do it. So if you don't make the appointment to quit smoking now, to make the appointment to end the addiction now, then you're even less likely to do it next week than the week after that, and the week after that. So take action now. Just pick up the phone, make the appointment. Do what you need to do to make it happen. And the third one is introducing yourself to new, better rituals for your life. What I mean by that is, we call it the ABCD, achievement, breaks, connections, and discovery. So achievement is to make sure you have a morning ritual to jumpstart your day. Whether it be a shot of vitamin B, or stretching or touching your toes, having a shower, writing a to-do list, maybe some exercises. And then the B is for breaks and boundaries. Make sure that you turn your phone off, right? Or something. Stop looking at the screen. Stop going from your TV to your laptop to your phone to then being in bed, still blasting lights. Have a proper break. Have a proper routine. And then the connection, right? Pick topics that you love to do with people that don't have to involve cigarettes or 7 or 17, cups of coffee per day, because that's enough to power a spaceship. And then D is for discovery. Plant positive seeds in your life. Give yourself rewards. Do things that you really love. Because at the end of the day, have a nest that you can come back to and fall into that doesn't involve you having a cigarette. So I hope this helps. And next week, we're going to be talking about a case study of someone that they thought they were too old. They were too stubborn. They were too unhypnotizable. And you're really going to want to see this video because it's really amazing. So we'll see you next time. Thanks again. It's been a big pleasure having you come back. And I look forward to you seeing the next video as well. Again, my name is Pete. I'm with Power Up Coaching and Hypnosis.